All right, welcome, Professor Robinson and class. Glad you guys are here. Enjoy. I hope everyone had a great Easter. No, I haven't seen you guys since then, and happy Masters Week to everyone. I see some of the media aren't as dedicated this week. Lulu, it's good to see you back here, though, and back on the grind. But I know it's a great big week around here with the Masters, and reminded of what a great opportunity to showcase Columbia and South Carolina is. I was on the plane coming back yesterday from Arizona, and some people sitting behind me, 2 were from England and 2 from Ohio. They were flying in. They were flying into Columbia, staying in Columbia all week, and eating in our restaurants, playing golf courses around here, and going to the Masters. So I know that a lot of that's going on. So welcome to everybody in Columbia doing that. Having said that, congrats to Coach Staley and the team the season that her and the team had. I know they fell 1 game short, but so much respect and admiration for them and what they accomplished, overcoming injuries, and got so much respect for them that I was talking with Nicole Auerbach from The Athletic, I believe, or Nicole Auerbach from, what's she, NBC Sports? No, NBC. Yeah, I was talking with Nicole out in Phoenix, and was just telling her how much respect I have for Coach Staley, that literally every team they play circles South Carolina on their schedule, and they get every team they play's best shot, and they just every night, every game just continue to show up and compete and battle. So can't wait to see them continue to get better as we go into next year. So congrats. And then it was awesome seeing so many Gamecocks out there in Arizona. It's another example of how powerful this fan base is, and the support that all of our programs have, women's basketball, football, you name it. So thanks to the fans. It was neat. I know I called out Lulu and David for when I hiked Camelback Mountain, but saw a lot of Gamecocks hiking Camelback Mountain up there. Passed 1 or 2 guys that were in Phoenix for a bachelor party. They had some buddies that had graduated from other schools that quit and did not make it to the top of the mountain, but I'm proud to say that the 2 Gamecocks I met on the mountain did. So it's kudos to them. And then I'm constantly reminded, too, of the Netflix series, Any Given Saturday, and the impact and reach that has. The hotel that my family and I stayed at, there was a 65-foot water slide at the hotel that Hunter talked me into going up with him. And little did we know that at the top of the slide, it wasn't a conventional slide. It was one of those where you get in this glass case and you stand up, and then the floor just drops from underneath you, and you just go straight down. So as I got to the top and I realized that was my only way down, I was contemplating, what have I done? And then there were 2 guys that were in line that said, "Go Gamecocks." I said, "Are you guys Gamecock fans out here for the game?" They said, "No, we're from Chicago. We're here for spring break, but we watched the Netflix show, and we became South Carolina fans after watching it." So I told them, if I die on this water slide, it was nice meeting you. Thankfully, I didn't, but that was intense, the water slide. But good weekend out there. It was fun to be out there and meet so many people. And then back this week, last week of spring ball, as we go into this week, 3 practices tomorrow, Thursday, and Saturday as we wrap up. Got a lot of work to do. Love where we are right now. We've made a lot of progress. No question, I believe we're farther along right now than we were last year at this time. But a lot to get done here over these next 3 days, or next 3 practices. And then as we go into the summertime, summer workouts, summer school, preseason camp, a lot of work to do before the season, but like the track we're on right now. And then again, disappointing there's no spring game this weekend, but going to be a great time on Saturday with the Spring Fest block party. With the musical artists, they're going to be here, not just Darius and Laura and Elena on Saturday night in CLA, but all the different artists that are going to be performing outside with our student athletes that'll be there. So should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to getting out there. We practice Saturday morning, looking forward to getting out there Saturday afternoon and evening, and spending time with so many Gamecocks that come out for that. So should be a great time, and looking forward to that. Questions? I think it's got to be Lulu. She came all the way back from Phoenix, and she's back here where, no? Okay. Hale, go ahead.
Do that if you're going to call her out like that.
No, she deferred to you. Respecto for being here.
With Saturday, will there be any sort of scrimmage situation that day or one of the days this week?
Probably not. If we do it, it'll be more on Thursday, which is day 2 of practice. Would be the one. Typically, when we've had a spring game, the practice before the spring game has been a little bit of a lighter, helmets only type practice, and then go play the game on Saturday. So we may flip that a little bit. I'm not really sure. Clayton, Kendall, and I met last week and to map out what we wanted this week to look like. What do we need? Where are we from a team standpoint in regards to health? Things we need to emphasize maybe this week more, maybe less, whatever it may be. But don't envision a game, so to speak, on Saturday. It would be more of a typical practice. Is the route we're going right now.
Since you brought it up, how are you with regard to health of your team?
Good. Nothing new to report since the last time we talked. Everybody's in pretty good shape. Got a couple, little Nick, Harbor, and Judge got tangled up a little bit last week on a deep ball in practice, and they had a minor thing where they missed practice on, what would have been, Friday or Thursday before we broke for the weekend. That's the only thing that's come up. That would be isn't anything long term. But hopefully we can get through these next 3 days and having the same conversation next week too.
And when it comes to offensive install with Kendall, like, I'm sure there are benchmarks of things that y'all want to hit in terms of getting installation. And how do you balance getting everything in with the pursuit of the perfection of what you're working on? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. That's really, in a lot of ways, John, the gist of what we're doing this spring with the way that we're practicing and how we've changed some things up. It's really mastering what we're teaching and installing that particular week. So that's what tomorrow's practice will be primarily, is trying to master the techniques and the schemes of what is going in this week, and then being able to do it a little bit more, do it against a defense the next day and the day after that. But certainly there's a foundation that we're trying to master right now, the details of what we're doing. And then the great thing is, with the access that we have with our players in the summertime, we'll really be able to do it again. We've started to install the offense back in January and February. Then we got into spring practice, and they were hearing it again for the second time in a lot of ways. Then after this week, we still have 2 more weeks of class, so it'll be a good chance over these next 2 weeks after spring practice ends to review, tweak. Then they got a little bit of time off in May, and then when they get back here for summer school in the summertime, you're really reinstalling it again. And then when you start preseason practice in August, they're hearing it again. So to me, it's very much, we know kind of what we're doing right now, offensively, defensively, and special teams. And now going forward, this gives us a chance to really go back and learn the why. Why is it called this way, and why are we doing that, and just continuing to learn over and over and over again. So.
Spring game's always been a big recruiting event for you. You don't have that this year. Are you able to use this Spring Fest event in any way from a recruiting standpoint?
Yeah, certainly could. We'll have a lot of recruits here on Saturday, and they'll be here for practice on Saturday morning. And then, certainly it's on campus and it's open to the public. So any recruits that want to come over there, I think would be great. We'll certainly encourage them to. It's another example, another opportunity for us to show prospects that are here, how great the city of Columbia is, how passionate this fan base is, and anytime you get a chance to do that, you want to.
When you look at the defensive tackle room and what you've seen from them this spring, from a depth standpoint, does it kind of resemble what you had in 2024 going into the season? And just kind of overall your thoughts on that room?
Yeah, I feel really good about that room. Obviously, that 24 room was pretty special, and then that 3 of those guys that were on that team are on NFL rosters right now, in Boogie, Tonka, and TJ. And I know DeAndre got an opportunity to last year too with Washington, I believe. But yeah, and then Nick, who's going to get an opportunity with the NFL here in a couple weeks with the draft. That was a really talented group in 24, but certainly that's one area that I'm really excited about, and we knew we needed to attack that area with high school recruiting and the portal because of who we were losing off last year's team. But the guys that are now a year older have gotten better. The freshmen that have come in, like Noah, he's made an impact, Clark, and then the portal guys we've brought in. we're really excited about that group. So I think Clayton talked about it yesterday. There's size in that room. There's athleticism. There's experience, and we need to be really good in the heart of the defense. And we knew off last year's team we were basically losing our tackles, bringing back our linebackers, and now we got our linebackers back, like I just said, and then we've really helped ourselves, I think, with what we've been able to do along the defensive line.
With the offensive line, will y'all continue to mix and match guys this week, or will this be an opportunity for y'all to try to maybe see if some things have settled, so to speak? Or?
Yeah, I think it's still early. We don't play for a while, so you got 3 practices, and we'll continue to mix and match. And certainly as we get closer to starting the season in September, you really have to hone it down. But I don't think there's anything this week where we just say, we have to have these 5 in the same spots for every rep of every practice this week. A lot of that too is because of our lack of depth on the offensive line right now, with some guys that aren't here, with some guys that have gotten hurt and aren't practicing right now. We've really got to move guys around just to be able to get through practice. If we're going to have a team period where we get 65 plays of like scrimmage work, you've got to be able to put some guys in some different positions to be able to get through those 65 plays, guys moving around and helping each other out from a depth standpoint.
You've talked about, obviously installing the offense with Lenore specifically. How has he done picking up and learning the new scheme?
Yeah, I think good. He's I like where he is right now. He's playing well. I think Lenoris is a football junkie and loves the game and loves working at it and studying it and watching it. So I think he's picked it up very well. He's in a good place right now, the way that he's performing on the field, and this summer will be big for him as he continues to master the details of everything that we're doing. But he's doing a good job with a lot of new faces around him at all positions, including the offensive line. It's nice to have a guy returning that's about to be his, going into third year as a starter, which I've never had, since I've been the head coach. So it's nice to see a guy now be able to take that next step, even though it's a different system. It's his third year as the starter and 4th year in the program, which is a big deal.
Following up on my previous question, you mentioned Darius Gray a handful of times this spring. What do y'all envision for him when he gets here? Is he somebody who could potentially play tackle? I think you might have.
Yeah, I think he's so athletic. I think he can do a lot of different things, and he'll get here. It's 3 years in a row we've started a true freshman on the offensive line. 2 guys, Tree and Tro, started in 23. Josiah started in 24. Shed started in 25. So we've shown that we're willing to do that if gives us the best chance to win football games. It'll be good to get Darius here. I think it's harder to play on the line of scrimmage as a true freshman than maybe other positions, but he'll get in here. He's got a great mindset, great work ethic. He's been involved as much as he can be from Richmond during spring practice, whether it was him coming down here on his own earlier this spring or jumping on Zooms to learn and talk ball. So if he'll have every opportunity in front of him to get in here and earn a role, just like all of our freshmen will.
How much more sane are you at this time of the year, not having to deal with a spring football transfer window?
A lot more. A lot more. Last year at this time, I was literally, just staring at, April 30th, I think is when it closed, just counting down the minutes until April 30th at 11:59 p.m., knowing that the portal was closed. And I can vividly remember, not to give you too many details here, Phil, but vividly remember laying in bed last year on April 30th at 11:59. Midnight hit, check my email, no emails from compliance that anybody had entered the portal and could go, I know who the team is now in 2025. So it's nice to not have that portal window, coming up, that this is your team and let's roll.
Was there any strategic reasoning behind having the May 1st official visit weekend as opposed to waiting until later in May or early June like you guys have done?
A little bit. There's a few, yes. So there's a few things. Everybody does their official visits now in the summertime. everybody. And I mean, I say Nick Harbor didn't, but for the most part, guys in today's time, they're taking their official visits in the summertime, and then they're going to make a decision before they go into their senior year. So one, we're strategic about who we bring in on summer visits. If a guy is not going to make a decision until December, then you're better off bringing them in my opinion, for a game on their official visit. Or if it's a guy that, his recruitment's kind of been all over the place and he may commit, decommit 6 times before signing day. Well, let's not bring him in this summer. Let's maybe push it back to the season. But the majority, like I said, are taking their visits in the summertime. So previously, we only had 3 official visit weekends, and we did them all in June. You kind of ran out of days in a lot of ways because we don't. I know some schools and teach their own has like the more the merrier. The bigger the recruiting weekend, the better. We're less is more and try and cap it at around 12 people, 12 recruits each weekend. So if you only have 3 weekends in June, there's some guys that we just frankly weren't able to bring in last year because we didn't want to get the weekend to get too big, because logistically it gets to be tough if you have too big a weekend. They come to my house, they hotel rooms, cars, all that stuff. So people on call here in the building. So we wanted to create another weekend just to have 4 opportunities now to bring guys in on official visits, which I'm glad we did, because we're just about, every weekend. We've got 4 weekends now, and I think every weekend has at least 10 people coming. So you're able to get more people here on official visits. And then the other thing was just having an opportunity in May to get guys on campus. We typically spring game, and then we never have really done anything in the month of May organized. Guys might come on their own to visit, but nothing organized in regards to a junior day or an official visit weekend. And I remember talking to Darren Usher last year. It was like a Saturday, and it was the middle of May, and just saying, next year we need to make sure we do something in May. And then we just got to talking about it and said, you know what? Well, let's try and be like the first official visit and get a chance to get guys on campus early in May. It's probably their first official visit. Hopefully set the bar high and then go from there. So that was the reasoning behind it. More opportunities, another weekend to get guys here, and then just an opportunity to get guys here in May. To me, the more you can get them on campus, the better. And then I saw it last year too, Hale, with guys that took their official visit here, committed, but then would just come back on their own every weekend to help recruit other guys. The Harris twins, I feel like, were here every weekend last year in June because they were coming and they wanted to be back around and help recruit other guys when they came on visits, which was huge. So this gives us another opportunity to do that too.
When you look at that linebacker room, how important is it to have that experience back that you bring it back with J.O., Fred Johnson, and Sean Murphy, and how important that is with what their play can do to affect up front and behind them? Yeah,
that's huge. When you got 3, Sean's the older guy in that room. He's been around, but then you got 2 guys and J.O. and Fred that have started an entire season, and this will be their, 3rd year of college football, and all 3 of those guys are really, really, really talented players defensively and on special teams. So to be able to, right there in the heart of your defense, be able to bring those 3 guys back is huge. And, they're 3 great guys. They're leaders on this defense. They're great players. And to know they're in that room, certainly I sleep easier at night.
What's the biggest turnoff for you when it comes to recruiting a player?
Great question. Probably. Well, to me, it's 2 things. One, you got to be a good person and somebody that we want to be around each and every day in this program. And if you come here on a visit and you're disrespectful, you're a prick, I think I can say prick, then it's probably not going to last long. I mean, full disclosure, we brought somebody here on a visit about 2 weeks ago, and within an hour of being in the building, I had 2 different people come to me and were like, he's not going to fit what we're about. So we sent him on his way. So you got to be able to bring in, this profession's hard enough, this game is hard enough to do anything to mess up that locker room downstairs. Like, we've got some really, 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 really good young men on this football team, so I'm not going to bring in somebody that's going to disrupt that. So that would be one. And then more specifically, I get it. There's a financial element at play. I understand that. But if I ask you what's important to you and what are you looking for in a school, and you tell me whoever's going to give me the most money, which I've had players tell me that, probably not the best way to endear yourself to me wanting to bring you in this program. Not that money's not an aspect. It is. I get it. But if it's the reason you're choosing to come to Carolina, don't come, because a year from now or 6 months from now, whenever the portal's open again, you're going to be in my office again for seeing who's going to give you the most money, So trust me, we're going to be competitive, and I get it. There's people always talk about, money is not money. Money doesn't matter. Money matters, and I understand that. But if it's the only reason that you're really choosing to come to a school, this probably ain't the place for you. So don't be a prick and have things that you want to come to Carolina for, other than just who's going to give you the most money, or any school. And I would think most coaches would probably say that.
No, and like you mentioned that you have a third-year starter in place with Lenoris. Does that change how this spring you evaluated guys like Cutter or Landon, those other quarterbacks, where obviously the development is still very important?
Yeah, yes, but it's a little bit different just because we got a new offensive coordinator, new quarterbacks coach, and a new system. So he's, it's not like it's Lenoris' third year in the system or fourth year in the system, and here's all these new guys. Lenoris, from a system standpoint, is very new too, and he's being evaluated, and Kendall's learning Lenoris, and Lenoris is learning Kendall. But yes, absolutely, when you've got a guy that has started games for you, you know what he can do from a physical standpoint, there's battle. Lenoris is competing. Lenoris has got to be better. Lenoris is competing to be better than he was yesterday. So there's competition always in that room. But yes, you got another guy in Cutter. It's his second spring practice. He's developing. Landon just came in. Lucian's here. You're evaluating that whole room, but there's a little bit of a different perspective, because you've got a guy that's done it. It's not like you're not really sure what they can do in a game. You've seen what Lenoris can do in a game, so that certainly helps with the analyzing and working with the other quarterbacks.
First of all, when you're watching basketball games, do you feel like a coach? Because every time I turned around, it was like the same third down body language that you have. And I was like, does he know that he is not in charge of the offense right now?
Yeah, it's hard. It really is. Somebody asked me that. Watching people I care about and teams I care about, whether it be my own children or Coach Staley's teams or any of our sports, it's hard because I have no control over it. So yes, I feel like a coach. Not that I know anything about basketball, and I'm not sitting up there saying like, why aren't we in a 2-3 zone? Like, I'm not saying that, but just you want them to be so successful and you don't have any control over it. It's hard. But yes, I can't just sit like I'm the guy that stands the whole game and will get down in that third down pose just so the people behind me can maybe see over me.
And then a real football question. You talked earlier in the spring about Lenoris' leadership and needing more from him. I'm curious just how you've seen a whole new system and Kendall sort of expedite that process and maybe pull different elements of a leader out of him.
Yeah, I think it started back in January when he came back in the weight room and doing all of our off-season workouts with Luke Day and everyone in our strength and conditioning program. Certainly started there, in conjunction with new offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach coming in. So certainly you saw that with Lenoris and the offense in general, but also in the weight room back in January. And then absolutely now that we've gotten into practice and everybody's out there, players, coaches, staff, every single day, those opportunities that we, put him in, whether it be, saying something at the beginning of practice or whether it be a competitive period in practice, trying to put him along with all those guys in as many, tough competitive situations as you possibly can. And I feel like he's done a good job, in those moments by continuing to be, don't be somebody that you're not. Don't all of a sudden turn into some, guy that's not who you are. Keep being who you are, but also understanding that because it is his fourth year in the program, third year as the starter, that everyone is looking to him. You're not the, you know, Luke always, Day has used the description, like in 24, it was almost like he was the little brother. You had all these guys like Debo and D Knight and Tonka and Boogie and Vershawn Lee. And then Lenoris was the redshirt freshman quarterback that just went out there and played. And he was a leader. He was voted a captain that year by his teammates. But now he is the guy, you know, that was those leaders that he looked up to in 2024. He's that guy now and has to be that way, or has to be that guy for the players around him, if that makes sense.
I think it seems like some of those defensive ends who were out at the start of spring practice have gradually done more whenever we've been out there. What have you seen from a handful of those guys like George, Kobe?
Yeah, what you've seen is about the extent of what they've been doing, unfortunately. They've been able to progress to individual stuff where they're working over there with Coach Barnes. They haven't been able to really get in there and do anything team related where they're doing any 11-on-11 stuff, but they're getting closer and getting better, and we need them to. Obviously, those guys getting hurt last year before the season was a big loss because it really affected our depth, and then those guys being out right now is a really big loss because it really affects our depth in practice. I mean, we have to be smart about what we're asking those other guys at that edge position to do because we don't have that many of them right now. But those guys that are getting back healthy, I'm excited for them. Kudos to them and Clint Haggard and his team down in the training room for getting them, you know, back healthy as quickly as they have, and they're well on their way to being able to, you know, be the players that we brought them here to be and make a big impact for us in 2026.
Do you ever wander over to Williams-Brice Stadium right now to take a look at the progress on the stadium, and how much do you have your fingerprints on, you know, what's going on over there right now?
Yes and no. I went over there. I need to get back over there. It's probably December, early January was the last time I actually went over there and walked through and did a tour, and it's amazing what all they've done just since then. So I do want to get back over there shortly to be able to see, you know, Greg Hughes is a great friend, and he's been awesome and has offered me up that opportunity anytime I want to. I just haven't been able to make it work, but I'm excited to get back over there. It's great being able to watch out my window each day in my office and see everything that's happening. It's great to be able to, you know, drive by, where the old Floyd building was, North End Zone, drive by there and see the progress each and every day. And then as far as my hands in it, not so much. You know, I think it's phase 3 is when they're redoing locker room, training room, post-game press conference area. All that'll be brand new in, 28, I think. 26, 27, I think it's 20. I think that's phase 3, 27 or 8. So that'll be fun. So early on when all that was being designed, I had a little bit of a say in that, how I wanted things structured underneath there, but they had a great plan already. But funny you mentioned that, you know, here once I'm done in here later on this afternoon, got a meeting with all the architects over there just to kind of get an update, myself and the rest of the coaching staff, on where things are and what's been happening and what's next.
Hey, Coach, what's the biggest thing you took away from last season, and how can you use that to better your team this year?
Biggest thing from last season, you know, make sure you've always got enough proven experience, you know, at this level. We lost some really impactful guys off that 24 team, obviously, and not that we didn't replace them with impactful guys, but we didn't replace them with enough impactful guys. And the lack of experience in some ways caught up with us in a lot of ways. And then the other thing I would say is just it was another great example of just how fine a line it is at this level and winning and losing and the details of every game. And, you know, the games that we won in the fourth quarter in 2024, for whatever reason, we just didn't make those plays and coach well enough in the fourth quarter in 2025, and it cost us. Y'all have heard me say it. I think it's 7 games that were one-score games going into the fourth quarter last season, and we didn't play well in the fourth quarter. So ultimately, in this league, I mean, it literally comes down to, because it's so deep and competitive, 9 conference games. It's like the NFL. It's going to come down to the fourth quarter, and you got to make those plays. I mean, we talked about it with our team last week. Georgia, I mean, won the SEC championship last season, and I think they had a 3-point game, a 3-point game, a 4-point game, and a 8-point game, if I'm not mistaken. So it wasn't like they were just lining up, beating the crap out of everybody. You're going to play close games in this league, and it's the details. Like, everything matters, and you got to be accountable.
Your opinion on the possible ending of the SEC championship game and other conference championship games if they expand the playoffs?
Yeah, just when I thought I'd be able to get out of here with avoiding some of those questions. That's what happens when you give Phil 3 questions today. Yes, I read that last week. I know some of the coaches spoke up about it. I understand we're both sides of it. Obviously, I'm a traditionalist, and I love the championship game, and I know how big a deal the SEC championship game is. I've had a chance to coach in an SEC championship game. I've coached in 3 Big 12 games, an ACC championship game, and I love the championship game, but certainly times are changing, and a lot of that, as I think those other head coaches have alluded to, is going to be dependent on what the playoff looks like. Is it 12? Is it 16? Is it 24? What becomes of championship weekend if it goes to 24? I know there's Army-Navy logistics in play. I know a couple years ago the idea was floated of, there's a play-in that teams – 6 teams, 1 and 2 are in the playoff, and then in the SEC, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 play each other, and it's just like a little round robin to get in the playoff. I mean, I've heard all kinds of different things that have been floated, but to answer your question, I love the championship game and would hate to see it go away, but I also understand that there's different factors at play now with college athletics and college football specifically, and how it's changing. So kind of on the fence right there, I guess. I didn't really give you an answer, but I see both sides, and whatever gives us the best chance to play for the SEC, to play into the postseason and have the best chance to be successful and win championships is what I'm for. Good. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great week. Thanks for coming out.